Good morning. This is Stomping on Eggshells, and I'm Trinette Hackett.
Good morning, everybody. This is Roland, and I'm here with my niece, and she's on quite a journey right now. So I wanted to take this moment to thank a few people for showing up and for being around. I know that not everybody can catch the show live on a Friday. I mean, if you don't have a job or if you don't have a traditional job, it makes it easy to watch something late morning on or mid morning on a Friday. But it's not like I have a normal job or Trinette's got a normal job. We have interesting different occupations. But I wanted to thank a few people for showing up because it shows that you care. This is not an easy subject to deal with. It's not an easy journey. And so to attend a thing like this is kind of landmark in itself. And I want to applaud you people who are showing up. And Barbara Quick, friend of mine, thank you for showing up and or thank you for watching the replay. You're always so supportive. And this is one loving person, by the way. And Carmen Mandich, you show up and you speak out, and I really appreciate who you are and what you have to say. And the third person I want to acknowledge is Misty Lynn. And although I didn't come prepared to give her entire realm a plug, she works with a show called um, the Death Chicks, and it's I've only watched it all the way through once, and I'll hopefully we'll catch it again sometime soon. But they have a fabulous show. She works with a lady named Patty Burgess Brecht, and Stomping on Eggshells, and your show, The Death Chicks, have a lot of spiritually commonality, and we're going to be helping people, and that's the whole reason that we're doing this, so that other people can process and release and come out on top. They don't have to turn into HOA show hosts, but maybe we show them a little bit of ways how they can improve their life, rise up from what they would consider a dark part of their life, and let it go, process out, and become happier as a result of it. So anyway, the people who are attending this show and watching this, hopefully that's your intention too, and we really appreciate you participating. How you doing, Trinette?
I'm having a rough morning. I've been up since 4 a.m. I can't get my brain to shut off. Um, this is not an easy segment to go over because this is probably the easiest portion of my life for people to be judgmental about. Okay, because being an exotic dancer, stripper, whatever you want to call it, it's not you have a certain idea in your head when someone says that word, and that was this is not a glamorous or a proud moment in my life, but I'm not I'm not trying to glamorize it. I'm not even trying to demonize the people that are in it. It's just this is a portion where I watched myself lose complete respect for myself, and that's why I'm sharing it. Is because whether you did this or not, there are times when survivors cannot justify to themselves that they deserve respect, that they deserve worth, they deserve caring, and it's it's scary. It's scary right now to talk about this because it's like something you can't tell good people, and if you tell people, it doesn't mean anything good about you, and then therefore you deserve to be judged. And so it's kind of scary to put it out there where anyone can see it. I know only a few people watch this, but the reality is that anyone can watch this, and it's not something that I am happy with, and I'm trying to separate past guilt with realizing that was just something I went through and something I conquered. I get stuck really easily in this area of my life where it's just like, here's this whole big wall of shame, and that's what I felt like. It was just this conglomeration of shame and ugliness. And I
Can
know,
I can I interject right here?
yeah,
Um, I'm going to totally short circuit this vein of thought because What I want you to do, Trinette, is evolve past the concept of shame, guilt, and blame. And this is a very hard thing because humanity, unfortunately, is wired to judge themselves and to judge other people according to what they think is right and wrong. But it's such a difficult subject. Yes, we all have our ideas of what goodness is, fairness, and what right and wrong represent. And there are people who have much lesser attributes in their thinking regarding what those qualities and values are. But when the average person, and I say average because we're all in this massive humanity, and we have this group of people and that group of people and this echelon of people in finance and these people who are poor, and we have all these people. And so at every level, you've got different ideas of what good, bad, and ugly is. But the thing about the people who have a need to blame, to have guilt, to focus on guilt, and to actually assume shame, that's an imagery that's all in our thoughts. And it's what we think is right or what we think is wrong. And we think these things, and it causes us to attach ourselves emotionally to the guilt, blame, and shame. And I'm not big on guilt, blame, and shame. I'm going to be sponsoring my own HOA on nothing but having positive energy, and it's going to be called "What is the Positive?" Because I believe people should reach always for the next step up on the ladder and reach up a little higher and pull themselves up and get a better view. And it's very difficult when we think about other people judging you, Jeanette. The reason that they judge you is that their own self-esteem is so on the balance line of being acceptable to their own selves that if they don't look down on somebody, they can't feel lifted up themselves. And that's a sickness. That is an illness that people have because they don't have enough self-confidence and self-worth in themselves to feel like they stand alone without putting someone else down. So the whole concept of guilt, blame, and shame, I mean, I link those all together, and I know that they're distinctly different, but they're all linked to the same issue, and that is understanding your own self worth, attaching value to that, and feeling like you have to judge other people to measure your own self worth on some kind of a scale or a chart. And that's ridiculous. That's the most ridiculous thing that I'll ever speak on in an HOA is the concept of guilt, blame, and shame. So, as far as I'm concerned, there is no guilt, there is no blame. There are just experiences that we've had, and you need not ever go to the point of assuming the shame again. And you're talking about it now, it's an experience, and it's hard to process, and it's hard to say it's your experience, but there is no blame and shame, and you are not guilty of anything. That's as far as I'm concerned. Now, the rest of the world will get used to those terms and judge them their own way, but you're around people today that do not judge the same as the world in mass. By the way, Nathan joined us, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Roland. Um, I forgot to unclip that box. There we go. Um, Sorry, it's very hard not to associate this with because it's not something I'm proud of. So conversely, it's something I should be ashamed of, which is very hard to shake because society tells you good girls don't do this, and yeah, a guy may want you for a girlfriend, but who the heck is going to want a dancer or an ex-dancer for a wife and the mother of your children? And what kind of family would want that in their family to marry and to be a part of? And it's kind of scary because I know there's family and friends out there that are probably going to watch this, and they're being very supportive, but I also know that this is hard for them too because they didn't know what was going on in my head. The after the army fell on the wayside because I ended up deciding not to graduate. I was cracking, and at 18 I had to find another place to live And my brother took me in with his girlfriend. And I got a job, at a fast food restaurant, and that was okay for a while, but I did what a lot of teenagers do, and I dated someone that I worked with. And yeah, big surprise, it didn't last, and then it became so uncomfortable to work there that I did the really grown-up thing and just stopped going to work. So, not surprisingly, I was fired from that job, because who the heck is going to keep you on the payroll if you won't call, you won't come in, you won't do anything. And it wasn't a great decision on my part. And I was kind of floating for about a week or so, trying to figure out what I was going to do next, because I was, kind of having to support at least part of myself. And my friends, I wanted so badly to be normal, and I didn't know what normal was. Okay, I didn't even know if normal was something that I deserved or something I could attain. And I would listen to my friends, and my friends didn't mean anything wrong by anything they said. They would give their viewpoints and their opinions as they saw them. And I was so afraid of my own viewpoints, because my own image of myself was so bad that it's like, okay, well, at least you're nicer to me than I am to myself. And it was half as a joke. I was going through the want ads and everything, and it's like, okay, I can't do this, and they're just like, hey, dancers wanted, no experience necessary, we'll train, you're pretty, you should do this. And I was the nerd that hung out in the library, or right by the planter by the library with my friends. I was afraid to go to a lot of parties. I was afraid to go to any football games. And I didn't know what to do, but I was desperate to get a job. And so I called and I auditioned, which it's kind of a joke saying you're auditioning for it, because basically if you're willing to take your clothes off, they'll hire you as a dancer as long as you don't look like a complete, gremlin. And that stuck me in this weirdest spot as a job, because agents, they call themselves agents for dancers. They're actually legal pimps, because they have this way of pretending that they're going to take care of you and they're going to be your friend and they'll help you. And then they start with this massive workload that you are going to work every night. And if you try to take a night off, particularly on a weekend, they really hound you. They really hound you. And if you are very shy, and particularly if you've done it before, you start splitting into separate personalities. And I remember my friends used to be very confused by this, because I'd be hanging out and talking, and then my pager would go off, because that was still when cell phones were very expensive. My pager would go off, and I would just stop talking mid-sentence, and I'd go to the bathroom and I'd start getting ready. And that was my dance persona. Could not be shy. Could not be. The first time I went to a show, I almost threw up on the guy. I cried afterwards. I almost cried during. And this is not something that good girls are supposed to do, And when you start putting a price on your body, then you lose something. And that's one thing I wanted to say, is you lose a part of yourself that you never get back. You never regain that part. You can try to heal the rest of you, but there's a part of you that becomes jaded. And once you've put a cost on you, it is so easy to start lowering that cost. And, my friends thought it was so cool that I was a dancer, and they would brag to people. And if I couldn't be normal, I wanted to be cool. I wanted to be liked. And it's not like they forced me to do it, but I thought it's like, this is a way of acceptance. I am now this edgy party girl. And I'd buy clothes that I never would have bought for myself before, because you can't just wear like a t-shirt and jeans. You have to dress like you're on a Vegas strip, and you have to buy the shoes, and you have to always have your hair and makeup done. And it was all just like this mask. And I was, at that point, I was chain smoking like 2 or 3 packs a day, because I didn't want to start drinking. I didn't want to do drugs. I would sit there, and I always had a cigarette in my hand, always. And this person that I was trying to emulate, that I created so that I didn't go crazy, was this I can only call her a bitch. She was shallow. She cared mostly about money and about how she looked. And she did things. I did things that I can't, even now I'm having a hard time looking back and going, how could I have gone into that party and done that? I went with a private agency as opposed to working at a club because I knew people in the town. And that was, really didn't want family members or friends showing up. That would have been, awkward to say the least. And I didn't know how to tell my family. It's like, hey, I've got a job now. Because the next question would have been, what do you do? And I don't think anyone in the family would have been like, good for you. I don't know how to describe every morning I would wake up and I did not know how I was supposed to feel that day. I literally did not know. I would wake up numb, and the first person to input into my day would dictate my mood. And I want to make a couple points about dancing. There's only two types of guys that will call a dancer to come to their house or their party. Two types, okay? These guys who are bored and they want no effort to put into seeing a girl and all together, okay? They don't want to put the time into a girlfriend. They don't want to put the time into dating someone, okay? And then there's this other type that could not get a girl to save their lives. And these are the scary ones because they have all these quirks that they want you to enact, that they want to enact upon you. This kind of job lowers or eliminates your self-respect. And I thought that I was gaining self-respect by being an empowered woman that wasn't afraid of my sexuality. And I told myself that for a long time. I was just like, yeah, I'm not ashamed of it. It's not this, it's not that. And I realized that I didn't think that I had a right to deny it to anybody once I became a dancer. Like if someone hears that you're a dancer, they automatically label you a whore. They automatically do. They may not say it to you, but they think you're easy. They think you're a gold digger, and they think you're a party animal. And if a guy starts dating a stripper, the obvious thing is you start wondering, when is she going to cheat on him? Because she doesn't respect him. She doesn't respect herself. She does this for a living. So that became very hard to battle against because I was afraid of dating. I was afraid of doing this. And I lost a guy friend that I've had since I was 13 because when he found out I was doing this, we used to watch a movie together once a week at his dad's house, and it was his turn to pick. And he said, well, it's my turn to pick, so, can I pick any kind of movie? And I was like, sure. I figured it was going to be another stupid B-rated, martial arts movie or something. And he said, well, can it be a porno? I'm like, I guess so, weirdo. That's a little odd, but again, I didn't know how to establish boundaries. And he goes, well, do I have to be dressed when I'm watching it? I'm like, it's your house and it's a free country. And he said, well, I can promise to keep my hands off you, but I can't say anything about myself. And I hung up. I didn't know I didn't say, how dare you talk to me like that? And it was years later when I did talk to him. It's like, did you think because I was a dancer that you would get lucky? And he's like, yeah, I guess so. And that broke something in me because I thought we were going to be friends no matter what. I kind of knew he had a crush on me. I'm not stupid. But he literally thought that I was just available because I was a dancer. And I realized a lot of people saw me that way. And that killed me because he was a nice guy. I thought he was a nice guy. And if one of my oldest friends couldn't do that for me, couldn't just be my friend instead of seeing me as this just box that's labeled sex and it's just like, hey, everyone take one. If one of my best friends couldn't see me like that, then how was the rest of the world going to see me? And I was working 7 nights a week, and my friends kept saying, you deserve a night off, you deserve a night off. And I finally got one night off. And my agent made me feel bad about it because I wanted a Friday night off. I was such an asshole that I wanted a Friday night off just to hang out with my friends, not to worry if I had to change clothes. I was able to wear a shirt and pants and socks and sneakers. And I was just able to hang out with my friends and watch movies. And I didn't have to wonder, am I going to hear that that ding of my pager. That then meant that I had to go off and take my clothes off for somebody. And it was hard for us to get bouncers, because plenty of guys want to be a bouncer for strippers, okay? But they just want to watch the strippers. They don't actually want to protect you. And it sounds really stupid, but it's like, yeah, guys will bite you. Guys will pinch you. Guys will touch you places they're not supposed to touch you. And then when you try to stand up for yourself, they laugh at you. Like, you got to be kidding, right? You're here. You know, why can't I do this to you? Because now you're just a thing. You're not a human being. You're not a woman. You are this thing. And so it helps if you have a bouncer. And one of my other friends is still one of my best friends. It was very hard for him to do this, but I said, please be my bouncer, because I know you'll protect me. And he liked me a lot back then. And so I was asking a lot of this shy guy to be my bouncer, but he did. He was my driver, my bouncer, and there were a couple times he saved my neck. There was a time where there was this barn and there were like 30 drunk guys, and I got picked up by my ankle and dropped on my head. And I didn't know what to do. And he picked me up. He threw his jacket around me. He took me to his truck. He locked the truck. And then he went back to get my stuff so that the guys wouldn't bother me. He's like, we're done. We're ending. We're done. He used to put on funny CDs and do stupid cheer dances to make me laugh between times. And he never saw me like that. He saw me afterwards crying. He saw me afterwards with like pocketfuls of money, just crying. And so he knew that I was like this close away from just snapping. And I'm so grateful for him, because he was one of the few guys I knew that liked me, but also didn't objectify me. And he knew that I was worth something. And I tried dating during that time. Didn't date him. But I tried dating a couple guys, but they would just brag that they had a dancer. And some of my friends were bragging that they made fat bank off me. And it was really hard, because if I kicked everyone away, then I was alone. I had this 2-story condo that, you know, most people my age couldn't have afforded. And I was alone. I had people over at my house every night. They were partying. They were eating up all my food. They were smoking. They were probably doing other things. And I went to work. And it's actually a lot of exercise to work. And it would start from like sundown until like 4 or 5 in the morning, sometimes later. And I would come home and the place was a mess. Everyone's like drunk or whatever. And I would find people in my bed. I would find people passed out on the stairs. There'd be nothing left for me to eat. So I started eating what's open at night. That's Jack in the Box. That's Taco Bell. That's, if you're lucky, you have to go into Denny's and order food before your pager goes off again. So that's a lot of fast food. And our agents started getting mad at us, going, why are you eating all this stuff? You're going to get fat. You're going to get bloated. I was just like, well, I'm hungry. I don't want a salad. I want a burger. I want French fries. I'm hungry. And I'm drinking coffee and soda to stay awake. It's better than doing drugs to stay awake, right? And he was just like, well, go throw it up. Well, I started doing that a lot. And I got down to 115 pounds. And you can't really see all of me, okay? But 115 pounds, you could see my ribs. You could see the dots of my spine down my back. And some guys still called me thick at 115 pounds, you know, where you could see my hip bones sticking out and my bones were sticking out, and they thought I was thick. And it's like, well, is your idea of skinny a skeleton? I have ruined the enamel on the backs of my teeth. Ruined, okay? I have to be very careful with it. Once I can afford it, I'll probably need like the veneer stuff that they put onto it just to preserve it. Okay, because the back of my teeth are rough. I have destroyed them with stomach acid. And just so you know, when you go to the dentist, they can tell that you've done that. I found that out the hard way. It was really embarrassing. I came close to ending it, because for whatever reason in the back of my head, as long as I did it at night, it was okay, because nighttime's a time for dark, shameful things, right? And I got scheduled for like a 3 o'clock afternoon show. And for some reason, something snapped in me, and I said, I can't do it. I just can't do it anymore. And my friend was there, and I had locked myself in the bedroom, and I don't know what I was going to do with the knife because I'm afraid of cutting myself. I'm afraid. That's one thing that was great was I didn't want to cut myself because you can't hide it when you're a dancer because they literally see everything on you. But I was going to do it that day, and he broke down my door, and he knocked. It's the only time he's ever hit me. He knocked the knife out of my hand, and it fell on the ground, and my room was trashed. I looked like I was living in a pigsty. I didn't care about how I looked or about what was on the floor or anything. And he's like, if you ever do that again, I'm going to kick your ass. And then he called up my agent for me and said, she's not going in today. And we just hung out. We just hung out, and it was like I could be normal for just one day, just hang out, watch TV, go to the mall, drive around, just... It had nothing to do with sex. It was great. It was so great. And especially with the job I had, you don't want to say, I'm afraid of sex. Sex freaks me out, because all teenagers are going to look at you as you're immature, you're a prude, you're a this. So I didn't know who to talk to. I didn't know who to talk to about this is really something I'm not comfortable with, because the obvious, well, why are you dancing? You know, and it's like, well, it's a great way to make money, and you don't have to have any experience. And there's always some lonely, desperate, bored person willing to see you take your clothes off, you know? And I remember the most money I made in 1 month. It was like $6,000. Okay, that was back in like 1999. I made $6,000. I had a business license. I had all that stuff. I think I was the only stripper who filed taxes. You know? And I pulled it all out of my safe box, and I looked at it. All this money. And I realized what this money had touched and what I did for this money. And I cried. It didn't matter that I had my own apartment. It didn't matter I had all these expensive clothes and shoes. It did not matter, because what I did boiled down to this handful of frickin' paper. And all my friends, well, most of my friends wanted some of that paper. So because I was trying to absolve myself of this, and I would spend money indiscriminately. Like, oh, you want money for this? You want money for that? I'll buy you this. I'll buy you that outfit. And they're human. They took it. And the group of people who wanted this money that I worked for, that I did things for, and they just showed up and took it. It got bigger and bigger and bigger. And then I was paying for some people's rent, not just mine. I was paying for their rent or their gas or their cigarettes and everything, and the food that everyone was eating that I was never at home to eat. And I started hooking. I started hooking because it was when my friends needed rent money, and it was like a few days away. And I started, and I was so desperate to get it all in one night, like it was my job, to get this for them. And I was panicking. I didn't want them to lose their place. I didn't want them to get kicked out. They had a kid. The cheapest that night I went for was $20. And they never said thank you. The person I paid for never said thank you. Actually, they would talk crap about me behind my back. And I didn't know how to escape it, because I felt like crap. I felt like I was dirty, and when someone said things about me, I would get angry, and then I thought, well, I'm doing something dirty, so okay. You know, that I deserve this. And the few people that would try to help me, I didn't know how to respond to it. I didn't trust it. I did not trust it.
Okay, so I'd like to interject at this point. I think you've reached down as far as you need to in this particular segment to get your point across, that dealing with this and feeling the responsibilities and the pressure of your peers and friends and non-friends and just your environment and the the community that you're involved in is really a complex set of things that causes you to think things that are thoroughly inappropriate for yourself, and for you to accept things that you would not normally accept in normal life. So when we all think about how we raise rent money or something, it would never go to the places that you've been. And so it wouldn't leave us with the memories of the things you had to deal with. But the perspective of why you did them and so forth with your to help people, that's a very common thing. It's just that you had to reach deep down into a different realm because your opportunity or availability is going to be different from so many people, and because of the way your whole experience rolled out. So I wanted to take this time to acknowledge a few people who are commenting prolifically, and I really appreciate what you're saying. Carmen said, if you can separate yourself, Trinette, into the physical and the spiritual you, you can see yourself in a better light. Things happen to you physically and or emotionally, but the spiritual you, that is what hides deep inside you and your base. You are now letting your spiritual come out, and this giving you the strength. So thank you very much, Carmen. And then there's more that she writes there. Focus on what is deep inside you, the beauty of your spirit, which was and never is altered by what others do to you or think of you. Now we've got some additional things. Thank you very much, Carmen. And your husband is here, by the way.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot for showing up, Steve. Appreciate you being here. I can't say enough that Stephen is a very unique man, and he's very brave to be holding your hand as you walk through this. Stephen says, the difficulty. Oh, let me show this. The difficulty of being a survivor is not having rational boundaries. Boundaries, and even Nathan can speak heavily on the subject of boundaries. Um, Boundaries kind of come natural to me, so I don't really work real hard at gotta have this, gotta have that. But some people struggle with boundaries, and if you don't draw the line and make some conscious effort to have those boundaries, your life can get out of control with that. So it's very true. I agree totally with the boundaries. Julie, Julie Sager Narenberg, a new friend of mine. I really appreciate you showing up. And she says, object. Here we go again. Sorry. Objectification is the worst, and it happens in layers and layers and layers, from ads on public media to TV shows, movies, and how the world around us expects us to dress, act, tolerate, etc. So the imagery that comes to us through the media of the world can be basically devastating when you consider we are building our cultural community values out of this, and we raise our kids in the midst of that. So I think that establishing the values beyond what people just see is really a critical thing, and it's probably a major point in raising kids and having friends, is that this type of stuff needs to be discussed more and more. And also, Carmen says, your true friends, your true friends will see what is inside you, and I agree totally. So, how
That's
you doing, Jeanette?
I'm doing a little better right now, thank you.
Sure,
I had to take a quick break just there for a second.
sure.
One of the things that has been hard, it was hard really then for me to realize, and up until just recently, it was like a novel idea for me, even though it's out there. It's not like I invented this idea. Is just because you made a mistake or you made a decision doesn't mean that you're stuck with it, that you have to keep making it. Because once I had done that, I thought I didn't have a right to turn around and be what some people would call prudish. I thought I didn't have a right to say I don't want to sleep with this person. or I don't want to turn tricks anymore. Just because I've done it in the past doesn't mean I have to keep doing it, right? But there were some people that don't matter, okay, that figured that because I already sank that low, what's the big deal about continuing that way? And especially for, it doesn't matter, younger generation, because they want to take advantage of an older generation, they're going to judge you. Not they, but some people are going to judge you on that one part of your life, even if you go past it. And that was a big fear for me, was because it's like, okay, how am I going to overcome this? How am I going to become a respectable person? Is stopping enough? Do I have to go and go to a foreign country and become a nun? How do I kept feeling like I had to justify my existence to people, either through attention or sexual favors, or trying to be as good of a person afterwards as possible, which I didn't always live up to. It was very hard for me to understand that I did not have to keep doing it. And that's one thing I want to say is, where you are, where you're hurting. And I work with this. I don't always have this handled, obviously. Okay, obviously. Just because you did something, and I'm going to say this even though right now I may not believe it, just because you did something that wasn't good, that doesn't mean you have to stay there. That doesn't mean that you are always going to be bad. It doesn't mean that you are always going to be identified by that one thing. And the people that are going to identify you by that one thing, you need to get them out of your life, because they want you to stay there. And who that loves you would want you to stay there and want you to feel so horrible? Why would they feel better for you staying there and feeling awful? These people are not good for you. I actually got a little smarter for some people after dancing, not always, where I'd tell them I used to do this, And 9 times out of 10, you know what the guy's response is after I found out I used to be a stripper? Well, does that mean I get a lap dance? That should have been an indication right there for me that this guy was no good. Because if they could then think that they were entitled to something just because of what I used to do, that they weren't going to see me and they weren't going to respect me. That was a pitfall trap I fell into a lot. And it took me a while to get away from that, to feel like, well, since now you know about me, it would kind of be stupid of me to deny you this, or to deny you, carnal favors or whatever. It just seemed like a fact of life. If you're dating someone, you have sex with them. If you're seeing them, you have sex with them. If you don't sleep with them, they call you all kinds of names, because rather than actually try to be a human being and try to date you and court you and make sure that you're okay with it, they'll just guilt trip you into doing it with them. And girls that put value on themselves, they're called cock blocks, teasers, all kinds of stuff, bitch, frigid. And it's like, is it really possible that they are like this? Yes. It is even more possible, guys or girls or whoever's saying this, that maybe you haven't met their standards. So instead of lowering their standards, why don't you try to meet their standards instead of making them feel bad for having them? You want this great girl or you want this great guy, but instead of actually dealing with them like a human being, you're just going to break them down until your effort is so easy. You just slide in there and then you don't want him anymore. And that, I know that everyone practically, if you haven't gone through that, yay for you, but the rest of the world has gone through that, where it's just like, why am I trying so hard to make this person happy when they're not even trying? Why should I have to remind someone I'm with to respect me? And then you feel like a jerk even for saying it, because you feel like if I have to ask for it, that it's not really your idea. And newsflash, if it's not their idea to respect you, then maybe you need to run away from this person who has to be trained to value you. Roland's got something.
It's from your husband. Stephen makes a really good point. And more people must be going through this very thing. He says, the difficulty is that both of us still have trouble establishing boundaries. We have so many people in our lives that just take as much as they can from us, and we let them because we feel responsible for everybody around us. And this is This is a strategy that people have when they are takers, and there are a whole lot of them. They think that the world owes them something, and they feel perfectly fine invading other people's space and taking whatever they're willing to give. And certainly, I don't appreciate it, but definitely that's a good point. And establishing boundaries is basically enabling other people to take care of themselves. That's one way we have to consider looking for it. We are not responsible for the world around us, but when we choose to help somebody in whatever way we do, when we choose, that's our choice. But when we feel that it's being taken from us and we're taking advantage of, then you know that there's something out of balance. And also, Stephen was commenting on something that Nathan Siegel presented in his last HOA show, which is called the Inner Peace Teachings of Nathan Siegel. And that is, hang on now. He goes, Nathan, I remember something you said from your recent broadcast that if you remove the family label, you wouldn't tolerate that abuse from anyone else. It's removing that label that is so difficult. And as hard as it is to remove the family label from family, it, it's equitably as hard to eliminate the labels from all your friends and all your associates when you're building up your self-esteem by your friends and your associates. So that's almost an impossible equation. And I wanted to add this, topped off this segment with the comments of Julie, who says, I admire you very much, Trinette. Sharing our stories is so empowering, and sharing your story is so empowering. That's what she's trying to say. The story and to others, wait, I'm sorry, is so empowering to us who live the story and to others who have their own similar story. So what you are doing is opening for others to feel, to integrate, to heal, and to grow. You have my respect. Now, that's the sole purpose. No, it's not the sole purpose. It's the evolutionary purpose of what you're doing. You started this whole concept so you can clear yourself, so you can feel better, so you can absolve the inner guilt and feelings and self imposed negativity and thoughts that you've lived with for 20 plus years and more than that. And one of the things I wanted to make clear is that the rest of the world does not have to punish us. It can be punishing, but the rest of the world doesn't have to punish us. We are perfectly capable of punishing ourselves. And this whole concept of guilt, shame, and blame, to me, is a tragedy of life. Because when we establish guilt, I think to understand the polarity of right and wrong is okay. But here's my philosophy, and I've had this for years. Once you understand that you've done something wrong, guilt serves absolutely no purpose. It doesn't serve any purpose. And we talk about forgive and forget, and one of the greatest arts of today's world is a concept of forgiveness. But to have forgiveness and to really buy into that concept of forgiveness, you almost by nature you have to have guilt and blame. And I just that's where I draw the line, because forgiveness is not a matter of judging whether someone's bad or not and they deserve forgiveness. It's, can we accept the fact that people make mistakes, and that once they become enlightened to the point of understanding the mistake, they naturally evolve out into, man, I'm really sorry I did that. And not to hold this sign above their head and say, you are guilty and I blame you. And for us to have the so-called power to say, okay, I'll relieve you of that label and take away the guilt and the blame. Bullshit. I think it's totally absurd to think that any one of us is better than someone else and deserves anything better than the absolvement of blame once you understand what you would do differently now. And what you did that was wrong back then, it was part of your experience. but we are not going to have to pay for it the rest of our lives. And that is what you're processing now. And when you finally take this whole feeling, Trinette, and set it on the shelf and look at it objectively, and that is a very difficult thing to do because of your experience. But when you finally do that, you're going to say, wow, I can walk away from that. And you no longer have to carry it. So you're processing right now. We realize that the journey has more mileage, but I have to salute you, and that's why I support you in this. That you're making the journey and you're getting ready to set all this down, because truly, let's get rid of the concepts of guilt, blame, and shame once and for all. And I believe that we should be doing that across the board in so many places. And I don't like the concept of forgiveness because it implies guilt.
Yeah, that's true.
So I think the next step above this is to realize that we don't have to use the word guilt quite so heavily.
Well, I'm going to use it as long as it applies to what I'm trying to convey, but I understand what you're saying is that it's
Sure.
not, even if it's not applicable, this is a lot, or it shouldn't be applicable. This is something that I think any survivor can understand is guilt and shame. Either that it happened, that they feel they let it happen, that it went on for as long as it did, or in this case, it was me actively hunting for people and situations and things that continue to hurt me, because that to me was real. You know, sex is dirty and shameful and painful and scary. So anything that made me feel dirty and shameful and scary, that was real to me. And because it always seemed like such a shadowy, vague adult thing, I felt like I was being an adult. I felt that doing this made me an adult. That adulting meant that you did feel pain and fear and shame. And that really led me to make a bunch of horrible decisions later on too. But one of the things that is hard for me now to do, that I'm actively trying to do, is, okay, I used to dance. Okay, I get it. I admit it. I own it. My dad didn't make me dance. Okay, no one made me dance. What my dad taught me and what I took from that is that I thought, I didn't know any better. I thought that I didn't have a right to say, this is mine, and I decide who I give it to. And even if this happened, even if it happened more than once, even with this job that I had, even with all the stupid boyfriends I have, I still have a right to say what happens to me, in me, with me. And sometimes that is a very scary feeling, you know? That is a very scary feeling, that you still have a choice. And that's, doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if people think you have a choice or not. You still get a right. And that's scary for survivors. It's scary for anyone who went through it, because they think, well, it already happened. You know, what's one more? Who's going to care? Who's going to believe me if they hear this, if they know this? Who's going to believe me that I have a right? And that's probably the most difficult thing right now, is saying you have the right. You have the right to cut poisonous people out of your life if they will not acknowledge that they're hurting you, if they're disrespecting you. You have a right to set your own value. And if people say it's too high, what does that even mean? You think too much of yourself. Okay, let's think about that for a second. You think you should be respected. You think you should be treated nicely. You think that you should be, valued. If you place a high value on yourself, is that really narcissism? Is that really being stuck on yourself? And as women, especially as women, you're expected to be pleasing. You're supposed to smile, and you're supposed to put on makeup, and you're supposed to be happy. And if you're not happy, and if you're not, if you don't look your best, they call you a hobo. They call you a lot of names. Okay. And so even talking about this, it's like, well, is this really ladylike? And, is this feminine? Is this feminine to talk about something so ugly, so openly? And my stepmother is awesome. And she told me one thing that I'm never going to forget. She goes, in almost every other species on this planet, the females are bigger, they're meaner, and they bite harder. And I love that, because for a long time I thought that me being assertive to the point of aggression, sometimes me being outspoken, a lot of times I felt that made me very unladylike. And in reality, that actually makes me a woman, to have an opinion, to not be afraid to show it, and not be afraid to show my affection, my protectiveness, anything. That is who I am. And if it's too strong for you, I mean, by all means, run away. You know, I'm too strong meat for somebody. You know, but the people that do see that and realize that it's genuine instead of me just trying to bluster my way through, they like that. They like that because I'm not trying to be fake. You know, I'm done with being fake. I'm done trying to be this person that would chameleon with every aspect, just trying to be something that this person wanted me to be funny, this one wanted to be pretty. It's like, you know, maybe I don't want to be pretty today. Maybe I don't want to be funny today, okay? I know I crack jokes all the time. Maybe today I don't feel like, you know, being your little, you know, Robin Williams, Danny Kaye guy. I don't want to do a tap dance. I don't want to do jazz hands. And I'm starting to realize that's okay. That is actually okay, that I can be labeled the funny person or the goofy person or the sarcastic person. I don't have to stay even there. Even if it's a positive thing, I don't have to be forced to be promiscuous. I don't have to be forced to be tough. I don't have to be forced to do anything. And I'm finally in a spot where all my friends and all my family, everyone that I've chosen to keep with me, accepts that and supports it and encourages it, which is actually kind of scary too, because having a lot of approval is terrifying. It's terrifying. Okay, so I'm getting all this approval, and it's absolutely scaring the crap out of me. But I'm grateful for it, so please don't stop. Friends and family, please don't stop. Because I love you, and I could not... I just want to say this right now, okay? I mean, I'm grateful to Roland for helping me, okay? And I'm grateful for my friends and family. I'm going to say this one thing, okay? Mom, I would not have survived this without you. I would not, okay? I know I talk to you almost every day, okay? You're one of my best friends. You know everything about me. I could not have made this through whole if I didn't know that one person saw me as good and did not let me forget it, did not let me walk away from it, okay? And there was a time where I hated you for it. I hated you for it because I thought you were so stupid to see me as good. I really thought that. And I'm so grateful, because I would not be here. Okay, I would not be here. Okay, I don't just mean I wouldn't have been born. I would not have made it this far to where now my husband can give you a hand and help me through this, and everyone else is helping me through this. You did it for a long time, almost alone, and with me fighting you every step of the way. And it's like I was trying to jump off a cliff and you were pulling me as hard as you could back. And I am so grateful for that. And I love you. I love you. And I know that not everyone has a mother like mine, okay? And I'm sorry, I wish I could share her with everybody, but she's kind of small anyway, so you'd only get like a little piece of her. That came out really weird. I'm sorry. And I just want you to know, especially with the holiday season coming up, and if any of this makes sense to you and you've been through this, okay, if you ever think that it would just be better if you just wrote yourself off and ended it, I'm going to tell you right now, there are going to be people that are noticing you missing and wishing you weren't, okay? Even if you don't see them, even if you don't know them, they're going to miss you. And you're not going to be around to count all the people that missed you. And if I did not get dragged out of these situations, okay, sometimes by myself and sometimes in spite of myself, I would not have a home and a husband and a sister and a brother and a mother and a daughter, several daughters through either birth, marriage, whatever, or just through love. I would not have these things if I quit. Okay, and some days I look around and I think, I don't deserve this. It's like someone just handed it to me and I didn't earn it. Okay, but I remember that I did earn this and I did deserve it. And no one's going to take it from me now. Okay, and it's a scary feeling, because I always, when I get something good, I wait for someone to take it from me. But if I had quit, I wouldn't have this. I wouldn't have someone that will just hold me when I'm scared or sad, or I see a cricket that landed on my shoulder and for some reason that was the worst thing that ever happened to me that day. I don't know why I cried over a cricket touching me. I used to study insects, and now a cricket touching me is the weirdest thing ever.
They're good like in the Far East.
I know, but we're in Southern California, and it's just they're
Yeah.
pests. But yeah, they're good luck everywhere else, I guess. I don't want them
So,
in the house.
so Jan, your mom, Jeanette, Jan, did you hear that message? You done good, sis. You did
Damn
a good job.
Skippy.
And a couple of comments before we
Yeah,
completely wrap up the program because it's moving out and people are making some great mentions here. And that is, uh, Julie says some parents, in their best intentional mode, do their children a disservice, bringing them up to be the selfless to the extreme. And this can translate into boundaries that aren't the best for the child in the long run. And that's true. We should watch what we're teaching by our actions and by the things that we say. And what we teach our kids is very important. And Carmen had one last thing that I wanted to mention. And then no one should look down on you unless he is helping you get up. Everyone has made mistakes, so no one is in a position to judge you. And that's about as clear as it gets. No one is in a position to judge you. And therefore, if we just start with the concept of when we think someone's guilty of something, let's analyze it from within. Let's not start pointing fingers because the real judgment is okay, I see what this other person has done. How does that affect me and what I will do as a result of that and what I will do in the same situation? That's all that we have a right to judge is what do we do instead from the knowledge we have now. So if you want to point a finger of guilt, you're really hurting yourself. It's really the wrong thing to do. And the best thing to do is to adjust your thinking so you change your ways, not the other person. That's really the only responsibility that we have. So we're coming down to the wrap up
yeah.
minutes of your program. And I really appreciate the people who have commented and come around. But any last words? What is the takeaway for the people and how can they can take a deep sigh and move on to the next thing in their lives?
Give yourself permission to start or to stop. To start realizing the good things about you. If it's hurting you, give yourself permission to stop. I swear on everything, it's your choice, okay? It doesn't feel like it because the people that are hurting you, they don't want to stop, okay? They don't ever want you to stop because they always have you under their thumb. You have that given right, and no matter what you believe in, okay, whether you believe in religion or you don't believe in religion, okay, I think everyone can agree that life does not stay the same, okay, whether you want it to or not. Life does not stay the same. So I mean, as you're heading downward, eventually it's gonna, like a rise in the wave, it's gonna swell up again. So just, if you quit, you are never gonna see what happens next. And I swear on everything, okay? I swear on everything. Some of it is wonderful. Some of it is wonderful. I'm getting better moments than crappy moments now. And I'm able to share this with people. And every time I talk here, and I talk to my uncle and my sister and my brother and my mom and my husband, every time I talk to someone, I feel less crazy. And it's helping. It is really helping. Did you have something you were poking at over there, Roland?
Yeah, Julie added, "You did just share your mom, and she's an inspiration."
And beautiful.
Yeah, comes
Yeah.
from a long line of Takaokas and the related names. And one last one. Um, This is again by Carmen. I really appreciate you people, all my friends and associates, coming and chiming in and contributing and being supportive. Carmen says, I can only sit back and listen intently because, Trinette, you see your situation and the road to recovery so clearly. Your clarity of thought and strength in determination is so admirable. You are a true symbol of strength and determination. Being hurt so badly, you are coming back much stronger. Hugs. So, as I said before, Trinette, when you're processing this, it becomes your strength. So people have not walked in your shoes and don't know what your experience is, but you're explaining it and describing it so well that people who have been through similar experiences, either their own or a friend's or a family member, can relate to this and really dig in and understand it more and become more supportive and maybe change what they're doing in the relationships so they can help that person or help themselves just a little bit more and bring them more into the light. So the job you're doing has repercussions that you don't even know how many people you're helping. And that's really the purpose of all of this, not just to help yourself, but as you evolve into your second stage above this, you will be helping others around you as you are right now. But when your intention becomes that of just really devoting your energy to the help, when you're past when you're past the wounds and you're past the sadness, it's going to become your strength. So I applaud you.
Thank you, Roland.
And with that, it's
So
time to wrap it up for the day.
yeah, I think we covered enough for today, and oh my gosh, I'm wiped. I'm physically wiped. Everyone who knows me, it's
Yeah.
hard to imagine that an hour of talking would actually lay me low. But this has been rough. But thank you guys for listening, and for the people that are watching, because I know they're going through or have gone through the same thing. Thank you. I know it takes a lot of bravery just to watch this because it hurts, and I love you, Bubbies. I know you're watching, and I love you. Thank you for being there for me. So I'll see everyone next week, and we'll just keep plowing through this because it's the only way I know how. All right, bye.